Hey, what is up, you guys? Welcome back to another video. So today I'm actually talking about something that may not be super apparent on this channel anyway, but I am actually an avid Sims player, specifically The Sims 4 currently. I actually have an entire separate channel where I primarily play The Sims 4. This is not an advertisement for that channel, by the way. I won't even name it here, but I do have a channel and I'm using this as a basis to kind of get you to understand why I'm even talking about this topic in the first place. I'm sorry, by the way, if you can hear my cats meowing in the background or if you can see the glare on my glasses. I don't really know how to fix that, so I'm just apologizing in advance if that's at all distracting for you. Anyway, so I've been playing The Sims for over 10 years, I believe. I've played The Sims Life Stories, The Sims 3, and of course The Sims 4 because that is primarily what I post on my second channel. But in general, I'm used to the gameplay to a degree, all of them I'm pretty used to. The only one I haven't personally played is The Sims 1, and they did recently re-release it so that it's available for more modern computers. I just haven't bought it. I don't really have an interest in playing The Sims 1, to be honest, but I would try it at least once. Anyway, if I were to compare The Sims 4 to The Sims 3 or The Sims 2, which The Sims Life Stories was released in the same era as The Sims 2 being out, so I'm just gonna kind of group those together. But if I had to compare them, the discrepancies are honestly pretty crazy. In general, many people have pointed out that The Sims 4, upon its initial release, was very lackluster feeling, and I feel like that's a word that I'm gonna use a lot in this video because The Sims 4 is unfortunately lackluster in comparison to its, predecessors. The things that really used to grind people's gears is the fact that they didn't even include things in the base game like toddlers or pools. And to me, the initial release, the map of it looked a lot like if you were planning a blueprint but you weren't done yet and you were just brainstorming ideas. It just felt weird and unfinished, and I hate the way the old map used to look, so I'm glad that the newer maps look like they're actually finished. But something about it just felt really unfinished. Maybe they were rushing. I don't really know what happened with that, but it just doesn't feel like the other Sims games. Now, I can appreciate that over time they did end up adding more base game content to the game, but please keep in mind that this game was released in 2014 and it is now 2025. It has been almost 11 years as the game was released in September of 2014 and it's only March of 2025. But I still think that's a really long time to still not have a lot of base game things that people are desiring. One thing that actually was just released in the most recent free base game update is burglars. If you've never played The Sims before The Sims 4, then you would probably not know that there were burglars in the game, which is why people were asking for them again. It's such a small detail, but it can add a bit of realism to the game, so I do understand why people were requesting it. But what I don't understand is why it took the Sims team so long to add something so minuscule to the game. Because the fact of the matter is, that wasn't even a huge update in relation to the burglars themselves. Now, the free update overall was fine in my opinion. It wasn't anything to really write home about, but it wasn't the worst update that we could have received. But my question is, why weren't they added sooner? I don't know if there just wasn't enough demand or, well, I think there was plenty of demand, but I don't know if maybe they didn't think that they had enough demand or maybe people would find it too, I don't know, traumatizing is a word that a lot of people use when referring to the burglar, but we already have random people come across our lots. So it's not even like it was a difficult thing to add. People are constantly coming to my Sims house that I have never met before, and they just stand outside my door. So the fact that they could just walk in, like, actually, if you've never had the dialogue box pop up that's like, I hear something sizzling in your house, do you want me to fix it? And then they just stand there outside your door, and eventually, sometimes, even unprompted, they could just walk inside of your house. Yeah, they could have added that much sooner, in my opinion. I don't feel like that should have been the thing that they put for their 25th anniversary. I feel like it should have been something a little more exciting. The other thing I kind of want to point out is that there was an event that was going on in-game, and it was about time travelers. That time travelers event I just finished like yesterday, and it's because the third week was so unimpressive and lacking in content that I was like, do I even want to play the fourth week? What even? I just wanted the thing to get out of the top of my screen, so I did end up finishing it. But both week 3 and 4 were so lackluster that I was like, I could have just not even done this and I would have been fine. I wasn't missing much of anything. There wasn't a proper storyline. It literally just, spoiler alert, as if this is any big spoiler, it's really not. But if you haven't finished that event yet, then I advise that you skip ahead like 30 seconds maybe. But basically all that happened was some guy wanted to preserve time from the past. So he was stealing things, which doesn't make sense to me. But okay. If that's the storyline that you guys want to go with, you know, who am I to say that you can't? I'm just saying that it wasn't really a great idea. Like, you could have done so much more with the time traveler event. I thought it was actually going to be something fun and exciting, but it really wasn't. The gameplay for the third and fourth week just felt like they had to do something, and they just did the first thing that came to mind without a true storyline. That's actually going to lead me into another point later on about how they do the absolute bare minimum and somehow still manage to get away with it. Back to my initial talking point though, it's just kind of crazy to me that so many people accept the bare minimum and they let the Sims team get away with it and try to excuse it all away. It's just a crazy concept to them that others would want something more out of the base game, especially considering the base game used to be a whopping $60 before it was free, which I have an entire gripe about how game developers will make a game that costs money and then release it for free years later, and they don't give the original buyers any incentive for having bought their game when it wasn't free. Give me a little bit of something. I spent $60, or the people who bought like the deluxe editions of the game and it was like $70 or more. Why aren't you giving them anything in return? They bought the game. They had already paid the money for it, and now you're just giving it out for free. They at least deserve a little bit of something. They paid for it, so we can't use the excuse that they didn't pay for it. It's just a bit ridiculous to me. The same thing with Overwatch. I was someone who bought Overwatch, and then they released Overwatch 2 for free for everybody to play. And I was just like, okay, maybe I'll get a loot box or something. And then they took away loot boxes until more recently. Why? You're not going to give us a little something. We paid for the content in that game. We should be able to get something from it other than just getting to play the game. We've gotten to play the game, and now all these other people get to play the game, but for free. We paid for it initially. Why don't we get something a little bit extra? It doesn't even have to be something big. It just has to show that you acknowledge that people bought your game and supported you like long enough for you to even be able to make your game free in the first place. But it's just kind of insane to me that people have to spend crazy amounts of money in general on anything, and then they get the bare minimum. Now, back in reference to only The Sims, I just want to say, not everybody wants to pay for expansion packs and game packs and stuff packs, and especially kits. Kits are $5 and are never discounted in any of the sales that they run. So it's just kind of bananas to me that they keep releasing so many of them and they just want people to keep buying them. I wouldn't say it's expected, but I feel like there's this, it's not a stigma, but there's just this feeling in the Sims community, if you're someone who is active in the community online, that you have to have all of the packs. Especially if you are someone who has a Sims YouTube channel, it feels like you have to have all the packs so that you can build with all the packs, you can play with all the packs, you can do Let's Plays. We shouldn't have to do that. I feel like that expectation is a bit wild to me because, first of all, it's our money. If we don't want to buy it, then we shouldn't have to. And a lot of people push that onto bigger YouTubers and they're like, well, are you going to review this pack? If they don't want to, they don't have to because they still have to pay with their real money. At least a lot of them. Now, some people I know get gifted these packs or get early access. It seems like some of them only get it for a discounted price, whereas it seemed like before maybe they were getting it for free. I'm not entirely certain. I've never been in the EA Creator Network, so I don't know if they were getting them for free initially, but I do know that they are given early access, and I do know that some of them do pay at least a discounted price. But I feel like content creators shouldn't have to be held to that standard where they're expected to pay for all of these packs so that they can tell you how it is. When, I mean, sure, you can have a favorite content creator and there's no problem with that, but if they say no and you keep trying to make them do it, just respect them when they say no. I think that's pretty respectable in any regard. If someone says no, then just take their no and be fine with it. Also, there are so many other Sims creators that will be looking at that pack anyway. You could definitely find someone else reviewing the pack. There's really no excuse. Especially if it's something like a kit. Like I've said, I just don't understand the purpose of kits. I think that they are just a cash grab because it's such a small amount of content for $5. It's really not worth it. I think if you were going to get a small pack, then the stuff packs are maybe the most worth it if you want a little bit of gameplay, like a very small amount of gameplay, as well as new items, because the kits don't add gameplay. It's just items. And people would talk about how, oh, well, if I wanted a building kit or I wanted just a create a sim kit, well, okay, I guess, but shouldn't you kind of be happy you're getting both? Because for $5, I think I would want the most that I can get out of it. I could buy, I don't know, I don't really eat fast food like that, but I could buy like a biggie bag, a 4 for $4, and I would be more satisfied with that than a kit, because at least that gives me nourishment. Maybe not delicious nourishment, but some nourishment. It's also just insane to me that they release the kits so frequently. Like, it's very obviously a cash grab. It's not them trying to be subtle in any way, shape, or form. I do think it's good that for some of the kits they work with actual custom content creators. I think that's a wonderful thing, especially if the custom content creators get a cut of the money, which I would hope that they do, because they're working with the Sims team directly. So it would be kind of insane to not pay them, especially for some content that they made and designed themselves. I don't know, I feel like it's a good opportunity for creators, but it's not really good for people who are consumers. And it feels awful because every single time someone complains about this, there's always someone that is up theirs and they're just like, okay, well, they have to make money. They have to have money to run. If they don't do this, then how will the game continue? First of all, they had 3 successful main games before The Sims 4. So clearly, whatever they were doing before was also working. And they don't have nearly as many packs in all of those previous games. That's not even counting the spin-offs, because The Sims Life Stories is a spin-off. My Sims is a spin-off. Like, The Sims Mobile and The Sims Free Play, those are both obviously for mobile phones, but clearly they had enough success before to the point where they didn't have to do what they are doing now. And not only that, but this is EA that we're talking about. These are not indie devs. They are working for one of the bigger gaming companies, so there's really no excuse that I can give. I am not going to be up a big corporation's booty. Personally, I just think that it's an excuse for you guys to feel better about it and feel better about buying all of these things when really it's just consumerism consuming you. Sorry. Maybe that was too harsh, I don't know, but I genuinely feel that way. Maybe it's just people wanting to have the excuse to continue to buy the things that they want to buy. And ultimately, if you want to buy these things, no one is stopping you. But I just think that a lot of people expect more out of the game, especially when all of the packs of all kinds combined run over $1,000. But have you guys just like never seen how much EA as a company makes? Like you've never just like looked at it, because I promise they're not hurting for money. And even if we ignored EA as a company because they are, the parent company, the Sims franchise still clearly makes a lot of money. So why are we still taking the bare minimum and being like, oh, but they need to make money? They do make money. There are so many people that play The Sims. I don't even know the exact number, but from a quick search, I could find that there are at least, at the minimum, 85 million players. At least 1 million of them have bought some of these packs. If that's on the low end, clearly more people have bought packs than that. But if we just wanted to go on the low end, at least 1 million of them have bought at least a singular pack. They are not hurting for money. There's no reason to try to excuse the behavior of them giving us the bare minimum and expecting us to continue to pay for it. Just stop paying for these things that are the bare minimum, and maybe they would give us more and listen to us. Because the best way to get a business's attention is to stop lining their pockets, because money does talk, unfortunately. As much as people would love to ignore that fact, money talks. If a business sees they are losing money because of a thing that they are doing, they will modify their approach and even maybe stop doing the thing that's losing them money in the first place. Because otherwise, if you continue to do the things wrong, your business will close down inevitably. Like, a good example of this is the fact that they split up Cats and Dogs, My First Pet Stuff, and even Horse Ranch, if you want to throw that in there. In my opinion, horses are also pets. I mean, I don't know what else they would be. Why didn't they just make another Pets expansion pack like they did with The Sims 3? That would have made a lot more sense. Especially since The Sims 3 had quite a few more pets than just cats and dogs. It's also so silly because My First Pet Stuff barely adds anything. It adds a few more pet beds, I believe, and like some outfits for your dog or cat, and then some hamsters. Okay. But why? I have My First Pet Stuff and I didn't buy it myself. I share an account with people in my household, so I wouldn't have bought it myself though if it wouldn't have been for them. So I still, even having it, don't understand the purpose of having it. The hamsters I don't even use except for when I'm trying to fill space in my house, because I just don't see a reason to have them, because they don't do anything. I mean, they go on adventures, they can write a book, but that's about it. Like, it doesn't really add a lot of things to the gameplay itself, which is my main issue with it, is not adding enough gameplay. Plus, with the release of Businesses and Hobbies, that expansion pack, there's been so much discourse over it, how it should have been included in Get to Work, and personally, I agree. Because even though Get to Work was the first expansion pack, if they would have taken but if they could have The Sims 2 open for business, why couldn't they do the same for Get to Work? Get to Work could have been so much better than it was if they would have just added these things before. Because even though there are a variety of businesses that you can run in Businesses and Hobbies, they could have added that in Get to Work. Because working in a tattoo shop is work. Working as a daycare owner is work. Plus, there's already a babysitter career in the game. I do think it's kind of crazy still to this day, and I don't hear anybody else talk about this, but I think it's crazy how the babysitter career, like part-time job, it's not a career, but the babysitter part-time job in The Sims 4 doesn't even allow you to babysit. You just go into the abyss like you do with almost every other job, unless you have Get to Work. And it's just ridiculous to me because in The Sims 3, you could be a babysitter and you could see the babies that you were babysitting and actually be a babysitter. Why can't you do that in The Sims 4? It's not like it's a difficult task to add. You just have a baby come with their parent to the house and you take care of them. It's really not a difficult concept. They've done it before. They could do it again if they don't have the same workers. Whatever. They figured it out before. They can figure it out again. Plus, with the release of Businesses and Hobbies, there will most likely be something that breaks the game, as there always is. Because every single time, more recently, that they have released a pack, there has been at least something that has broken the game to a degree. It might be something small, but it's still annoying because they're either going to take forever to fix it, and people are just going to get used to it in their game, or they're going to have to try multiple times to fix it. It's just so crazy and a bit aggravating that we can't even rely on them to release packs effectively and have them work properly. I don't know if they need to do more gameplay testing, maybe hire some more gameplay testers and stop putting it on the people who have already bought the packs to test the game for them. But it's just insane, because if you wanted people to test the game, why don't you pay game testers and not get people to pay you to test the game for you? It's just annoying. I just hate that people try to defend the bare minimum, and oftentimes it's not even just in things like The Sims. It translates into their real lives as well, but that's an entirely different topic for another time that I would love to speak on, because I just love talking about the bare minimum if you haven't noticed. The other point I want to touch on is directly about the community itself, but more specifically, custom content creators. Many of them will do the bare minimum, and once again, they know that they can get away with it. Especially the ones that charge money by using Patreon or something of the similar sort. I even myself came across someone on Tumblr who was like, okay, you can download this custom content off my website. I go to the website and it costs $7 for me to get one hair. One hair. A hair that someone else could have easily created for free. And I didn't go looking for it because I was so flabbergasted at the fact that it was $7 for me to use one hair that I was like, I've done enough custom content shopping for the day. I'm not even interested anymore. You would think you were buying an actual product. And don't get me wrong, I completely understand that there's a lot of work that can go into creating custom content and doing things like that. But this wasn't a hair that was revolutionary. It wasn't even an alpha hair or anything, because I feel like those do take a lot more time than Maxis Match hairs. But the fact that it was a Maxis Match hair, and that she was expecting us to actually pay $7, and also was running ads on her page as well, I was just like, no, I don't think so. But the craziest part to me is the fact that people will actually pay for that. And it's like a one-time payment of $7 is one thing if you have a Patreon and it's like $7 or whatever, and you get access to a bunch of items. But $7 for one hair is actually insane. Plus, also things like people recoloring shirts that are already in the base game and then charging money for it. That is also crazy to me. And I'm pretty sure that in the terms of service from EA themselves, it says that you should not post custom content that costs actual money for an extended amount of time. They don't really specify what that means, but you're not supposed to do that, so I don't know why people do that and then get away with it, or how people get away with it and why EA doesn't do something about it. It's just kind of ridiculous also because that's basically like you're taking EA's work, like their shirt that they already made the mesh and everything for, and you just copy and pasted an image that you found off Google. You just put it on that shirt that was already made, and now you're charging $5 for it. No, it's not even a real shirt. Why would I pay that much for it? You barely did any work. I could figure out how to do that myself. It's really not that hard to make custom content for yourself. You can easily figure it out on YouTube. If you have all the tools available to you, of course, some people do not have that. And I completely understand that and respect that, especially if you're someone who cannot run an exuberant amount of programs on your computer for whatever reason. It's just so ridiculous that so many people get away with doing this, though, making recolors of things that already exist and then charging money for it, actual real money. And this is not just within the Sims community either. This is a problem in multiple facets of the world. Like, it's a major issue with companies, just like corporations, influencers. It seems like everyone is just doing nothing and expecting to get paid for it. And I hate to sound like one of those people that says no one wants to work anymore, but that's what it feels like. And I'm only referring really to businesses when I say this, because with the custom content creators, it's like whatever, I guess, because people can just scroll past, figure out how to make it themselves, or go and find someone else who has made that custom content. But when it comes to businesses and I'm paying $1,000 for an item and then it breaks after a year, what do you mean? You're doing absolutely nothing and expecting me to continue to pay for it. This is especially prominent in phones, and I have always said that, especially iPhones. I don't know what it is about iPhones and them just not adding any features, but it's just kind of crazy, and that's one of the reasons that I don't really like using iPhones, is because it's a whole lot of nothing. There's a multitude of reasons why I don't use iPhones, but that is definitely a determining factor for me. Drew Gooden actually just released a video more recently about this topic, but specifically in regards to technology. So if you want to check that out, I definitely suggest that you do. To get back to the main topic though, people in the Sims community have quite literally gone after others if you even mention how their custom content isn't worth the money or that it's just a recolor that they're charging for. And I promise, it seriously is not that hard to make, like, custom content that is, like, clothing. It's really not that hard, especially since so many people make the same clothing items over and over again. And that's another thing that kind of bothers me, is it'll be the same item, but maybe the leg of the pants is a little longer or shorter, or maybe it's high-waisted instead of low-rise. Like, you just took this other person's content that they made and you just modified it slightly, which I guess that's how clothing in real life kind of is as well, but we can't really feel the quality difference in custom content most of the time. You can see the difference. You can't feel it, though. As I said before, though, it's not like I'm saying that no custom content creator or modder deserve money, because a lot of them do. Especially the modders in the community. They do so much, and it helps so much to have them in the community. They improve the game in so many different ways. I just have so much respect for modders and all of the work that they do, and them making sure that it works with every single update, them making sure that they interact with their community, fixing problems as quickly as possible. I think it's especially way more respectable because a lot of times it's just a singular person working on these mods. Whereas when it comes to the Sims team, it's an entire group of people and they still somehow can't get it right. I just really appreciate people who put in effort to try to make things right instead of just throwing it in and hoping that it works. I just can't fully appreciate a person who simply copy-pasted an image and put it on an already existing mesh. I can't support somebody who simply takes content out of a pack that already existed and puts it into a separate pack and expects us to pay full price for it. It's also crazy to me to charge for something that is slightly modified. Like, I shouldn't have to pay $5 a month to get access to things that are barely different from the base game items. I don't know, that's just my opinion. But anyway, in general, I just think that it's disappointing how lackluster The Sims 4 feels in comparison to the older games anyway. If The Sims 4 is your first Sims game, then maybe it's exciting to you and maybe it's still super fun to you. But when you're comparing it to the other games, it's really not as exciting. It doesn't feel as immersive. It feels very goofy, even the way that they dance, the way that their facial expressions are, the way that they just do whatever you tell them. The relationships, it's not like the individuals feel differently about their relationship. The relationship bar remains the same for both parties. So whereas in previous games where, let's say that I am talking to Susie and maybe Susie is really loving talking to me. And I'm like, yeah, okay, Susie's cool, but she's not my favorite person ever, but I could have a conversation with her. Well, Susie's bar would be like high-level green, whereas mine would be like mid-level green in a previous game. But in The Sims 4, it's like we just feel the same about each other. We're both just so excited to talk to each other all the time, when that's not really how real life is a lot of times. And ultimately, obviously it's a video game, but it's a life simulation game. So you still have to have a little bit of realism in it. I feel like maybe you don't feel the same way, but I just think if it's a life simulator, it should have things that happen in real life in it. And I know there are going to be people that are like, okay, we'll just play the old games then if you have such a problem with The Sims 4. Okay, well, I will. But that still doesn't change the fact that they're not trying and that is my main issue with it. You know, like they said earlier, the burglars just got added to the game, and that's something that they easily could have added many years ago, maybe even upon release. They could have even released it with toddlers and pools. Like, they could have done this, and they just decided not to. It's really insane. We waited 10 years for such a lackluster addition to the game. Something that we already had in previous games. I just don't get it. Why are they still getting away with this? Plus, there are so many other updates that people want from this game. Like, even something as simple as having the children actually get on a school bus to go to school, or getting a car to go to work. Because those were in the previous games. And I'm not expecting it to be like The Sims 3 where you get in your car and you drive to work and you follow them all the way there. I mean, like The Sims 2, you get in the carpool and they just drive away. They disappear, okay? They still disappear. But you can add a little bit more realism. Like, I'm not just disappearing into the abyss when I go to work. Or, at the minimum, they could have them walk down the sidewalk. Like, just have them start walking, and then it'll be, like, at school. You know? Like, I don't know. Like, there's just some solutions that they could have come up with that they just haven't. And adding a school bus isn't hard because if you have high school years, there's a school bus parked outside of the school when the school day starts anyway. Why wouldn't you just copy that little school bus, put it in front of my house, and then have it drive away and disappear? I just hate that they disappear into the abyss like they never existed in the first place, like they were a little ghost and they were just like, poof, I'm gone. I literally don't even care if we have cars that the Sims can drive themselves because The Sims 4 isn't built for something like that. it's not open world, so we wouldn't be able to see our sim driving around town ready to go shopping. We would just see, I guess, them get into a car and then, like I said, disappear. I don't really care about that, because it would be like, okay, my sim's in the car and now there's a loading screen. It would be pointless. Whereas with the sims that go to school or go to work, if it's a job that is not like get to work friendly, it would be like the other games before. They get in the car and they drive away and then the car disappears because, well, it's going off into the horizon, so that's why it disappeared. But they didn't even do that. And there are cars in the game that just drive up and down constantly. So it's not like they can't use those same cars and just use them to pretend like the Sims are getting in there and going to work in them. That's why I don't really know why people request cars so frequently, because it wouldn't even be interesting enough and it would be so disappointing and lackluster that people would then just complain about that as well. And I can't really blame them for it, but let's just save ourselves the heartbreak and not expect them to put it in the game in the first place, I think. All in all, though, because this video is getting pretty long, there are just so many things that people have to make mods for that could be basic gameplay implementations, yet they still don't add those things. And I do love mods, don't get me wrong, and like I said, I love to support modders, but I just think that we have to consider people that also don't have access to mods, or maybe their computer cannot run a bunch of mods, or maybe they just don't want to because they don't want a bunch of random files on their computer, which I don't blame them, because with a drop of a hat, people could easily input something malicious into those mod folders, and then you've got a virus on your computer. But that's not even counting the people that play on console, because console players cannot use mods. And sure, kits, I guess, could be argued that they're good for console players, but I think that maybe you should just give better packs, actual packs. Then the console players don't have to wait for kits to be constantly released with custom content creators making them. They could just have an actual good pack, whether it be an expansion, game, or stuff pack. I just think console players deserve better, and so do PC players. We all deserve better from them. It's just not fair for them to constantly expect us to pay for a minuscule amount of content, and it's really getting quite aggravating at this point. But of course, people will always keep buying because consumerism, I guess. It's just kind of weird, but all I have to say now is another expansion pack is not going to solve all of our problems, another kit is not going to solve all of our problems, and another lackluster free update is not going to solve all of our problems. So please, Sims team, please just hear the people out and actually do something. And people, please stop paying for lackluster content. And this should go without saying, but you have to be careful with trusting the influencers, because sometimes if they are overly excited about them being the packs, they're probably being paid by EA. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you watched it all the way to the end, wow, that is crazy, because I really have been yapping for a long while now. Don't know how long this video is going to be, at least 30 minutes though. If you have any requests or any other video ideas that you would like to see from me, please let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure to leave a like. If you'd like to see more content from me, make sure that you subscribe, even though I barely post on this channel, but I promise I'm going to try to post a little bit more. So if you would be interested to see more of whatever randomness I have to talk about, then feel free to subscribe, and I will see you in my next video, whenever that may be. Bye!